Hello everyone, my name is Squaggy, and this is Deck Inspection. Here in Deck Inspection, I'm going to give you an overview of a deck, then I'm going to give you a showcase match, and finally we will do some reflections on where I think the deck stands in the current metagame. Today, we're going to be inspecting Veissrugr.
立ちふさがるは黄金の星玄魔従えし異界の番人心しろ月の試練これより開幕ライド月の門番 Veissrugr.
Keeper of the Moongate, Veissrugr, was released in DZBTO7 and is tied to the Mythich archetype and is used by Yakumo Kagetsu in the anime. The deck was not met with a lot of fanfare on release, clearly being an archetype that is waiting for more of its Mythich to be released before it could make any splash. Then, DZBTO8 came, and it still wasn't very good. But, with DZBT10 and the third Mythich, this deck is now looking reasonably competitive. For those not in the know, Veissrugr uses the Moongate to filter Mythich out of the deck, needing to Energy Blast 3 to call 1 from the deck, until you are Veissrugr himself, in which case you can also put 2 to the order zone from the top 7. The Moongate can be placed by the grade 1 right line either from the deck, or if you hard draw into it for your opener, you can draw one after you place it from your hand. The grade 2 of the right line lets you filter out 2 more Mythich, putting 1 to your hand and 1 to the order zone. By this point, you can start using the Moongate as well to get your Mythich out of the deck. Veissrugr allows your Moongate to now filter 3 cards out of the deck, and you can Soul Blast 2 to activate the Moongate again, meaning you could see 6 cards filtered out of the deck just like that. Here, we can see what Veissrugr is supposed to be good at, filtering the deck. By turn 2, you have 4 cards filtered. By turn 3, you could have anywhere from 4 to 10 if you're very lucky just off the right line. Then, when Veissrugr attacks, you can call 2 Mythichs from your order zone, 1 to each row, and your front row gains 5,000 power. Finally, he has a defensive skill as well, being able to put your Mythich back to the deck as a cost to give the Mythich on the guard circle another 5,000 point shield. This recycles your units and gives a big shield bonus. You could combine this shield with cards like Buster Barrage to recycle the shield too, but I'm not using it in this build, but I would recommend it. Now, let's look at the Mythich themselves. Firstly is Veissrugr. He has 2 abilities. One is that he can be run at up to 16 copies, and the second is that he can boost once you are Veissrugr. He's not as impactful of a Mythich as the rest of the gang, so he's just a name that we're gonna want to filter out rather than one of our star players. If you want Buster Barrage in the deck, this is probably the card you cut, but having a named archetype unit is still very valuable, so don't cut every copy of it. Now let's look at the first of our Mythichs, Rotsnir. If your Vanguard is Veissrugr on the turn they are placed, it can attack both the Vanguard and a front row rear guard, acting as a mini Vermilion. Following that, it always has a 5,000 power boost on attacking even on the grade 2 turns and can Counterblast 1 or Energy Blast 3 to draw a card. He was, as his name suggests, the first Mythich to be released, and when he was new, he wasn't enough to carry the deck on his own. But now, his number early is impressive and his draw is quite spammable, as the Counterblast that used to be Veissrugr's choke point is now one of his freest resources. How did they get free? We'll look into that later. The second of our Mythichs is Garzorum's or Mitsugamur. If he's placed during the battle phase, if you put him in the back row, you can Counterblast 1 and he can gain an extra attack and cannot be chosen by your opponent until the next turn. This effect is not grade 3 locked, but he's gonna be hitting for kind of a weenie number early on if you don't have the Golden Order online. His second effect is when your opponent is grade 3 and you play an order, he gains 15,000 power, and if you don't play an order, it's 5,000 power. When I do the showcase game later, you're going to see that I forget the 5,000 power, but it doesn't really affect much. This power bonus is insanely strong, especially since every Mitsugamur has this power gain. Paired with the gold order, going second, you can be hitting some really high numbers on each side. Finally, the third of our Mythichs, Helgvar, is the latest addition to the roster and makes the deck really come together. On place for free, you can check the top 5 cards of the deck and add any Veissrugr or Lunar Rite order to your hand. And once again, this is free. Or if you Persona Ride, you can Energy Blast 3 to guarantee an add of the order, mostly coming up going second when you have the spare energy. This top 5 search filters out the cards that your Moongate isn't finding, and most importantly, can shuffle the deck in the main phase after you've shoved your Mythich to the bottom of the deck when you've guarded with them. And after she boosts, you can move her to the Soul and countercharge 1 just like Bobo Mine. But unlike Bobo Mine, it is recyclable and searchable. This makes Counterblast an incredibly free resource and gives you ample soul to continuously proc the Moongate with Veissrugr's skill. For the Lunar Rite orders, we are on to Elephant Gomani, which I'll be referring to as the Gold Order, which can Counterblast 1 and give each Mythich 5,000 power and 10,000 power if they are called that turn, making it your premier order for turn 3 and your kill turns. It gives the most power, and even though it says Counterblast 1, again, thanks to Helgvar, it is a little more free than you'd expect. We're playing 2 Alfini, which can be played from the drop zone and gives every Mythich 5,000 power regardless of whether they're called or not, and is completely free. However, is locked to your opponent being grade 3. And we are also playing Vanguard in the situation where you have to retire one of your opponent's units because that resource is important, but it is a little less impactful than the big numbers if I'm being honest. You could probably run 3 of either Outfit, or you could run 3 of Alfini instead. Then of course we're on 4 Sentinels. Remember, if you are playing Buster Barrages at high numbers, let's say about 3 or 4, you probably don't want to run Elementaria Sanctitude and instead want to run a normal Perfect Guard so that you don't kind of conflict with your blitzes per turn. Then we're also going to run 1 Twin Cast, and for the triggers we have 8 crit, 3 draw, and 4 heals, plus the Elder Breath to end games with. Many games will end with a filter into Elder Breath, so get used to not feeling bad when you check it, and get used to feeling bad when you draw it. You could also be playing fronts over draws as well. In my preliminary testing, I found that the hand was fine even without checking many draw triggers, and with rots in your skill you are drawing a lot of cards, so you may want to draw the higher shield cards like a front trigger as opposed to a 10,000 point shield draw trigger. Okay, with that, let's showcase a Trial of the Moon. Our opponent here is going to be on Argo Sirens, another deck that released with Veissrugr in DZBTO 7, but it's also gotten a major upgrade with the new Straight Skill Dragon, so let's see how this goes. We're going to be going first. We're going to discard the draw trigger for Ride, we're going to ride into Fresnel, we're going to look for the Moon Gate, and then with Fresnel skill we're going to set it, shuffle the deck, and pass the turn. Then right afterwards, they're going to go into their turn, and they're going to ride into Aramia. For Aramia's skill, they're going to be able to add Cartharos Ode to their hand and play it, then they're going to draw a card of going second, and with Cartharos Ode's effect, they're going to Soul Blast 1, and check the top 7 cards of the deck, and call an Argo Siren to the board. Then they're going to go into battle phase, hit us for 8, we're going to take that, we're going to check critical trigger, and we're going to be defended after that. Then we're going to rise Ramstein with Ramstein's skill, we're going to check the top 7 cards of our deck, we're going to find Veissrugr, and we're going to find Rotsnir, and we're going to put Rotsnir on the board, and Veissrugr into the order zone. Then we're going to use the Moon Gate, look at the top 7 cards, and we're going to find a Veissrugr and put it onto the board. We discarded a Veissrugr for Rise, so this will give us a booster for later on if we want to. Then we're going to call one Helgvar. With Helgvar's skill, we're going to look at the top 5 cards of the deck, and hey, there is our Persona Ride. You can see even with minimal filtering, this is still enough pieces to hit. Now we will go into the battle phase. Veissrugr is going to swing into the side. Argo Sirens can't really get back their units from the drop zone. Then our Vanguard is going to swing at their Vanguard, hit no trigger, and then we're going to swing at Rotsnir for 23,000 power, and it's going to draw us a card as well. They're going to take this as second damage, and they're going to pass the turn. Going into their ride phase, they're going to ride to Refseek. With Refseek's effect, they're going to be able to add the grade 3 order to their hand here. Then from their hand, they're going to play the grade 1 order, Cartharos Ode, and they're going to once again check the top 7 cards of the deck for an Argo Siren unit and put it onto the board. Then they're going to Counterblast 1 for the skill and call a Straight Skill Dragon as well. With Straight Skill Dragon skill, they're going to discard a card and they're going to draw 2 cards. You can see here that's kind of the Yukmasha. We're going to guard the Vanguard. It's going to check a critical trigger. In the critical trigger, we can use our crit and Veissrugr to guard the attack. We have no Counterblast open, but that's okay because Helgar is now in the deck. We're going to discard another Veissrugr. We're probably going to find another one of our top 7s here, and of course we do. Also finding a Rotsnir here. Here I do forget to play the order before I do all this, so I can't reduce Rotsnir's skill by Counterblast 1, but it is okay, it doesn't really affect it too much. I'll just change my position from here. Then we're going to play it, and then we're going to retire Straight Skill Dragon with its skill and reduce Rotsnir's Counterblast by 1. This is why I played this order, because I think it's pretty good in matchups like this where units are important. We're going to use Veissrugr's skill, check the 7 cards of the deck, and find 3 birds. I don't play anything else, so it's fine to find these. We're going to put one right behind the Vanguard here, and we're going to play another Helga from our hand. With Helga's skill, we're going to check the top 5 cards of our deck, and we're going to find, hey, there is another order for us to add to our hand. We already have the Persona Ride, so we don't have to add Veissrugr to our hand. You can see now that Helgar is hitting pretty nicely. Now, unfortunately, this turn we're going to be a little weaker because we did not have the Golden Order, but that is fine. We're going to swing for 18 on the Veissrugr side first. They're going to guard here, and then we are going to swing with our Vanguard right after we use Helgar's skill to countercharge 1. You can see here we can juggle this Counterblast face up and face down just so we always have enough. Our front row is going to gain 5,000 power thanks to Veissrugr's skill, and our opponent's not going to guard this. We're going to Twin Drive here, and we're going to check nothing, which is a little unfortunate, but what can you do? Our opponent, however, is going to check a defensive, but the defensive is not enough. With Rotsnir's effect, they're going to get 28,000 power, 10 to guard, and then we're going to attack again with another 5,000 power, needing 15 to guard here, and we're going to draw a card for free thanks to the order we just played. Our opponent is on grade 3, and with Calliopeia now, they're going to discard the new grade 1, which is going to reduce the cost of Calliopeia by Counterblast 1, and it's going to play the Kindness Oracles from the drop zone here. You can see that this deck is now a lot more resource efficient. Then our opponent's going to play Straight Skill Dragon. With Straight Skill Dragon's skill, they are going to use Energy Blast 3, discard a Tiding card, and draw 2 cards. This is going to increase their hand quite a bit. Then for this position, they call yet another Straight Skill Dragon, and they're not going to use the skill. Because if they use Calliopea's skill here with Energy Blast 3, they can't afford Straight Skill Dragon, so they're not going to use it. Here, their Straight Skill Dragon column is going to swing, and now the numbers are going up, and we're just going to take a try check a defensive. We don't, but oh well, that's kind of how it goes. They're going to bind one Kindness Old M1 Kainos Orcos, and then their front row is going to gain 5000 power, which might seem awkward with one trigger still being one to pass. However, thanks to our Mythics, we are able to keep the damage low by making this a 2 to pass with just 2 cards like that. You can see here the efficiency of the Mitch's guards. And she's going to swing with 18k here, but we're not going to guard. This was a chance they check a trigger, and they check a trigger. So they check a crit, we check a draw, we check a heal, we heal. So now their side doesn't hit, and the other side is going to hit with 35,000, and we are going to guard that anyways. We're not guarding with a Mythics because we like having the units to play. Here we're going to play Helga, and with Helga's skill, we're going to shuffle the deck. That's kind of the purpose of using Helga in the main phase like this. So now when we enter Blast 7, we're going to find a Veissrugr. Then we're going to use Veissrugr skill, so Blast 2, and then we're going to check the top 7 again, and we're going to find yet another Veissrugr. Now Veissrugr may not be that great of a call in the main phase, but actually it is great because our Veissrugrs are going to be big boys, 40,000 power just with one order alone. Here I do indeed misplay because I'm going to swing at the Helga side first, but you should not swing at the Helga side first because we don't have a face down damage. We heal that out. So I'm going to kind of waste Helga here. See, you can see me fumble around with it here, which is fine. It's just a learning process. We're going to counter blast, we're going to use Veissrugr skill, and we're going to call 2 units. And we're going to put Veissrugr in the back row for the 5th attack. You can see here the power just keeps going up. I'm very slowly giving all my Mythics their appropriate power boost. Veissrugr getting 20,000 power, and they're going to perfect guard Veissrugr, probably a good choice. And here we're going to check one critical trigger. Critical trigger is going to go to our Veissrugr in the front row for 70,000 power, double critical, and they are going to use 5 cards to guard it. That's a big Veissrugr, and why he's pretty valuable even in the front row without his multi-attack. Following this, we still now have 220 to guard attacks, and they're going to take the first one. Now it's a 10 to guard attack for the second one because they checked a trigger, and that's another trigger to guard. And then they're going to have their turn. They're going to Persona Ride, and now it's the time for the Calliopeia. Finish your turn. We are at 3 damage, but our hand is looking really good. That is Veissrugr's new hand size. It's kind of good. It's in a situation like this where I would have loved to have Buster Barrage in the deck. Buster Barrage is a really good card in Veissrugr. Please do consider it, even though this build that I am showing you does not use it. They're going to Persona Ride and use Tightline Dragon here, and it's going to give their Vanguard and Tightline Dragon about 10,000 power. Here they just kind of call the straight Skill Dragon and Tightline to different columns than she intended to, and that's kind of fine. She just changes the back row unit, so don't be too alarmed about that. It doesn't impact the game too much here. It is just the correct play, and I allow it. Onto the battle phase here, they're going to swing with their straight Skill Dragon column first, and the power is just going to keep going up. And we're going to take a point of damage, and it's not a trigger yet again. And now Calliopeia is going to swing. We don't really have an out to like a Blessed Favor or a Volnod or something, so we're just going to perfect guard the Vanguard here. And they're going to check 1 blank, 2 blank, and they're going to swing 38,000 yet again with only 1 triggered. We're going to use Elder Breath to guard. They're going to heal out of range a little bit, and they're going to put 10,000 power onto Straight Skill Dragon. Tightline Dragon is going to swing for 48, but we do have enough guard here with our Mythics. With the Mythics here, we're going to recycle the unit so that we always have stuff to call off the Moon Gate. You can see me fumbling around trying to make sure that we have sufficient Mythics in the deck, some for counter charging and some to hit. We're going to check again, no trigger yet again, but we're going to top deck with the Persona Ride, so can't complain too much. We draw into yet another trigger. Then with our Energy Blast 7, we're going to call a Helga to the board, and with Helga's skill, we're going to check the top 5, and off the top 5, we do not find anything, but we're going to use Veissrugr's Soul Blast 2 to call 2 Mythics from the deck. That's a 2, I meant 3. We're going to find 3 hits here. We're going to call another Helga, because what we're doing here is that we are searching for an order so that Veissrugr can hit a real number. With Helga's skill, we're going to look at the top 5 yet again to try and find an order, and we just don't find it, which is fine. We're just going to move our units around so that they're in the proper position. We're going to check our drop one last time. And we don't have an order, so Veissrugr is going to hit like a wet noodle, but hey, sometimes you just get a little bit unlucky. We're going to call over here actually so that Rostner hits a nicer number than what Veissrugr would. So we're going to swing here, 35,000 power. That's going to require quite a bit of guard, and they're going to no guard it, check the heal trigger, and heal out of 6. But that's okay because we still got a couple more attacks to go, and Veissrugr numbers are quite big. So here our founder is going to gain 5,000 power, and we're going to have another call of the swing. They're going to think about it for a bit. Look at their hand, look at their board. It is not looking good for them, even with a 6 damage heal. The numbers are still coming, and the columns are still quite big. So, with a heavy heart, they're going to put enough cards to 1 to pass us. We're going to check a critical trigger, and that's going to be the game. Okay, we've seen the deck in action. Let's inspect. I've chosen a game where Veissrugr's triggers don't really pop off against a pretty respectable offense. Now, while Argo Sirens aren't exactly a tiered Veissrugr level strategy, it is still a good showing of what Veissrugr can do without a high roll. So, what's the good and what's the bad? First, the good. The deck is now incredibly consistent and efficient. Helgvar lets you feel at ease using your resources to achieve the multi-attacks and power gains, finding your P-rides and orders consistently. Now the Mythics can really shine, using their counterblast skills over and over and over again without feeling too bad about the resource. 2. The filter is actually really strong. If filter and good attack patterns make toys tiered last format, it stands to reason that Veissrugr shouldn't be too far behind. 3. The deck is a lot more resilient, able to leverage Rothnir's draw and conserve hand by calling with the gate and having a higher than average guard value thanks to every Mythich being a 10,000 point shield or using Buster Barrage if you need to. But it's not all roses. The deck still relies on trigger checking to hit a certain expected floor. If the deck doesn't want to work, you're going to be missing out on games where it isn't really your fault that you lose. 2. Veissrugr can sort of build the board back from removal skills, but is not as free or guaranteed as some of the other decks. Still, the deck is far more competitive now than it ever was before. If you can hear the call of the Moongate, expect to see a lot of Veissrugr in your future. And if you don't plan on playing Veissrugr yourself, make sure you're really good at cutting Elder Breath to the bottom of your deck after your opponent uses their last Moongate proc of the turn. Thanks for watching Deck Inspection, and I'll see you all in the next YouTube short about which Vanguard card I would kiss.